You know, there's nothing I find more amazing than looking at some of these older bands that have been around for years, decades, to look at them now towards the end of their run, or maybe they're already finished, to look back at their prime, their day when they were just young and full of energy, to see some of these guys and gals just young, rocking, kicking ass, gives you a new perspective on them when all you see now is just an older person that's not what you envision in a rock star. But we got to really appreciate whatever our time was. For me, the mid 90s to the mid 2000s was prime for me. There was no other band and no other album that resonated with me more than 1X by 3 Days Grace. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back, music lovers especially. That's right, my rock music lovers. Listen, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so right now. Absolutely hit that button. That will help me in this channel grow. You know the drill. YouTube puts me out there to a more vast audience. In the end, that's obviously good for me and the channel. But that aside, look, 3 Days Grace was a band for me in my teenage years that stood out among, well, the rest as far as mainstream went. So many great bands and artists I've seen, and artists in different genres that really I gravitated toward them, I should say. But there was something about them that drew me in. And I can give you a list that goes on and on and on. And then there's just the bands that were before my time. And that list can go on and on and on. But 3 Days Grace was absolutely a huge band for me. They resonated with me so much. And I guarantee anybody around my age or that was in high school or younger when 1X by 3 Days Grace came out can vouch for how amazing of an album it was. And just how amazing it made 3 Days Grace look. It just made you realize how great these guys were. And you really couldn't appreciate it in real time. I don't think I did as well. But as I look back now, and if I throw that album on, it does nothing but give me fond memories, and it's absolutely nothing but track after track after track of great rock music. So just to kind of get it started, I have done videos on 3 Days Grace in the past, the band as a whole. I've done stuff on Adam by himself and some of the struggles he went through, through his life. Now, real quick story, just to kind of make it the, fast version. We know 3 Days Grace started in 1992. The guys are from Ontario, Canada. They started out as Groundswell before they eventually would change their name to 3 Days Grace. But this band, Groundswell, 3 Days Grace, whatever you want to call them, they paid their dues. I mean, they did the best way, in my mind, as far as when you think of a band starting out small and growing into, a huge band that's recognized worldwide. If you're one of those that start like them, where you're playing the backyard parties, you're playing the small venues, you're just 100% paying your dues to get to where you want to go. They were one of those bands, and that gives me a different appreciation for them. Absolutely respect that grind. Now, the thing was, it was just the three of them. It was Brad Walst, Neil Sanderson, Adam Gontier. It was just the three of those guys when the band started. Barry Stock would join, before the album that we're going to be talking about today, 1X. But originally it was just three guys. And they did an amazing job leading up to their debut album, the self-titled album by 3 Days Grace, which released July 22nd of 2003. Huge album. And I swear to God, I remember hearing I Hate Everything About You on the radio for the first time, and it blew my mind. 15 years old in high school. You're dealing with so many emotions at that time, and so much different for guys and girls. And that's when we really start to come in our own, is what each sex eventually kind of turns into mentally. And it can be cliche, and I'm not going to throw a bunch of stereotypes out there. We are all our own individual person. But when it comes to guys and it comes to girls, there's definitely a different mindset there. No doubt. And if I could go back to 15 now, knowing what I know now, it'd be insane. I'd own the world. But that's not the case. And unfortunately, we all think that sometimes. But, these guys, when they dropped that debut album, put them on the map quickly. And songs like Just Like You and Home also hit radio airwaves and just blew up. They killed it. Got them in a position to be going on tour with their fellow countrymen, Nickelback. They went on tour with bands like Evanescence, Hoobastank. They took over. This self-titled album ended up going double platinum. They were hitting the Billboard charts, constantly. They did a hell of a job. But that was the perfect blend of different things that can go on in a band's life to lead into something that, none of us expected when they were getting in the studio to work on their second studio album. So Barry Stock joined the band to be the band's lead guitarist in 2003, not long after the release of their self-titled album, which turned the band into a four-piece, which is the way we think of 3 Days Grace, as a four-piece band. If you really are someone that was there from the beginning, it's not hard to go look at some of those early videos like I Hate Everything About You and see that it was just 3 guys. You quickly forget all that because of everything they've done afterwards. So Barry joining was, I believe, huge for the band. So like I said, that self-titled album's release, from 2003 through the end of 2004, these guys were just killing it, grinding on the road, touring, just making appearances everywhere. And they were doing what most bands do when you just blow up like that and people start to take notice. The question is, what do you do with it, and can you follow it up and keep it going? That's always the question with any band or artist that drops something like that for their debut album. And you know, it's hard to go from wherever you were to getting all this attention globally. I mean, it's a huge step in a musician's career, and I could only imagine what it was like. But once 2004 ended, you roll in 2005, all that success, it was not a big surprise, especially when you think of a band that's partying, drugs, girls, all the cliches you can think of. When you hear about a rock star getting addicted to something that's affecting, well, the band, it's not a big surprise. With Adam Gontier getting his addiction to Oxycontin, it was a big deal, but it's not like we haven't heard that before. Oh, rock star goes to rehab, rock star dies, rock star, whatever it is. So, you know, it's nothing out of the norm. Now, his addiction drove him to going to rehab, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health in Canada. When he went in there, I mean, while doing treatment, this guy, Adam Gontier, the man, he wrote a lot of lyrics for songs in there that would be, well, contributed to what would be on their next studio album. So once he completed the program, which he absolutely did successfully, him and the rest of the guys, they went up to a little cottage in northern Ontario, and for 3 months, they stayed in that little cottage and grinded out the songs that were going to be on their second studio album, 1X. Just like I Hate Everything About You, I vividly remember where I was as well, in the same state, same city, when I heard the very first single released from what was going to be their second studio album. Before its actual release, most albums are like this, they're going to drop a couple singles, at least one. And April 10th of 2006, Animal I Have Become, I heard that song on the radio and freaking, I loved it. It's a badass song. And it's one of those, though, as much as I love 3 Days Grace and respect them, I heard that song so many times that even today, as much as I appreciate it, there's times I can change it to the next song because, Jesus Christ, I've heard it so many times. Doesn't take away from how amazing it is. And that's just one of those songs that Adam has, well, it's not 100% writing credits on. Barry Stock also has credits on that song. But most of those, that's one of those songs he wrote a lot of the lyrics to while he was in rehab. And if you've ever been in that position, I don't care who you are, if you've been addicted to some sort of substance, and even think about some people that have never done drugs, you know, whether it's coffee or cigarettes or something that you do where you've kind of got to a point where you rely on it, you want it, you need it. When you don't have it, there's an irritability there. There is these moments you become something that really, if you didn't have that in your life, you wouldn't be. You're still the same person, but you become something a little different in a sense of when it comes to drugs. You can become an animal. I mean, the want, the need, and the reliance is so strong. That's why I firmly believe I have my stance that drug addiction is a disease, whether it was a choice or not. It might have been a choice at first, but once it sets in and it's got a hold of you, there's times where you want to be out of that hold. You don't want to be in that position where you're relying on it. So, and when it gets to that point, it's a disease. Maybe not initially, but it gets there. And Animal I Have Become absolutely gives you a good insight into what Adam was going through and what a lot of addicts are going through when they're in that position. It really sucks. Those that can climb out of it and rise above it, it's the most beautiful thing. The ones that, well, the time that it sucks is the ones that can't get out of it. and some of them reach a point of jail. Some reach death, and none of those things you want to reach. But you know, you just got to keep fighting that fight, and sometimes it's hard, and for some it's a little easier. In the end, the song is amazing, and that was just a taste of what was to come on June 13th of 2006 when they released 1X. But once that album was released in June of 2006, it was just, I mean, the sky was the limit for these guys after that. That album skyrocketed, and for me it meant so much, and I know there's got to be a bunch of you out there like me that this album just hit hard for. And it makes you realize nowadays when Adam is not with the band, and I did a video about this, you got Matt Walst, you got Adam Gontier, current lead singer, former lead singer. Who do you prefer and who did it best is an argument that I've seen in the comment section of that video. You can go check it out if you want. There's a lot of debate there. Majority are going to say Adam. Adam's the guy. And this album gives you a reason, well, the best reason why he is the guy. That's why 3 Days Grace is not complete without Adam. Even though Matt Walst has filled in just fine. I got no complaints. The dude is a good frontman. And he does some justice to the songs that Adam did and wrote for the band. But this album really shows you what Adam was. Because there was 4 singles released off this album. The second single, Pain, was huge. I mean, absolutely huge. Full writing credits to Adam on that. And that's another song he wrote while he was in rehab. And it really makes you realize what he was going through and what his mindset was. And to this day, I can still throw Pain on and jam out. Matter of fact, I'm trying to get my youngest to learn the lyrics to this song. He loves the song. He just hasn't got all the lyrics down yet. But the cool parts, he has it down. And then the third single off of 1X, I mean, Never Too Late. One of their most iconic songs. Great freaking song. I guarantee everybody loves this song. Full writing credits, Adam. Again, another one he wrote while he was in rehab. I mean, those first 3 singles are 3 of the best 3 Days Grace songs ever. Not just off this album, but ever. And they all come from the genius of Adam. And it really makes you realize, again, where he was at mentally. And that's why I think this album and these songs were so great and hit so hard. Because of the personal emotion behind the lyrics. That's why you could hear a song and just relate it to yourself. Those are some of the best songs. And then you can go to the 4th single, Riot, which also Adam wrote. And that's one of those songs where you just listen to, not necessarily for the personal attachment or the emotion in it. It's just to rock out. And those 4 singles are all amazing. But, I mean, everything these guys did on this album, absolutely amazing. And everything that came after was just a bunch more, well, badass things. The album was so huge. I mean, the song Animal I Become won Rock Song of the Year at the Billboard Awards that year in 2006. Absolutely huge. They were the #1 rock artist played. From the release of this album, 2006 through 2007, played US and Canada. #1 rock artist played. And you know why that is? Well, it was because of the release of 1X and the impact it had. That is just absolutely massive. I mean, these guys toured with some amazing bands that year. And some bands that they toured with, these bands were also very influential on my upbringing at this time. I mean, huge. Seether, I mean, Breaking Benjamin, I mean, dang, Stained. The bands they toured with were amazing. I mean, and again, they toured with Nickelback as well after the release of this album. I mean, fellow countrymen, support each other, I get all that. Just doesn't seem like a good fit to tour together. Nonetheless, it happened. No disrespect to Nickelback. And a couple years later, after the release of this album, they released the Live at the Palace DVD. 2008 was huge. And obviously, most of that, the impact of that DVD, of that performance, is coming from the songs from 1X. But you know, you love the songs from the debut album. This is before their 3rd studio album, Life Starts Now. That's why that was probably the last big impact of 1X, besides what it still has today, before they kept releasing albums after that. Huge, huge. And I loved this album so much. It was, again, one of those albums I could play and love from start to finish. And from the moment you throw 1X on, It's All Over, the number one track on the album, is absolutely phenomenal. And when I hear it now, I get the same feeling I used to get when I first bought the album and started listening to it every day, driving to and from work or wherever I was going. It's All Over, the leading track, is absolutely amazing. I still get that feeling like I'm back in 2006 driving to work. It's amazing. And then you got 3 of the singles, Never Too Late, Pain, and Animal I Become, that are squeezed into the rest of the album before you get into Riot, which is actually the 6th track on that album. But the 5th track, On My Own, love that song. Absolutely love it. The 7th track, Get Out Alive, love it. 8th track, Let It Die, another amazing track. The 9th track, Over and Over, just God, it's an amazing track. And again, these guys all got together and wrote some amazing songs. Not just giving credit to the songs Adam wrote, but all these songs. The 10th track, Time of Dying, is probably my favorite song off the album. It wasn't one that was featured on radio a lot. It eventually did work its way out because it's such an amazing track. But Time of Dying, absolutely love it. The 11th track, Gone Forever, phenomenal song. And then the 12th track and final track, 1X, is just amazing. Every song off this album is amazing, and it's just so amazing how these guys created such a beautiful piece of rock art. And that's exactly what 1X is. I mean, if you love 3 Days Grace, even if you know the songs, you know this album, go listen to it right now and tell me from start to finish these guys did not create a masterpiece, because they absolutely did. Man, I love this album. Just a work of art. Thank you guys for coming and watching. Absolutely had a blast talking about 1X from 3 Days Grace. You know what? Go out there, take care of your friends and family. Do something amazing. Doesn't matter what you've accomplished yesterday. We can always put that on the shelf and have something we can always look back on. Let's go out there and create something new. Let's have our 1X moment where we step up anything we've ever done in the past and do something 10 times more amazing. And then we can put that on the shelf and do something even more amazing. But you gotta keep going out there and grinding and just do something you love. You gotta try to test new waters every day, because there's no limit to what we can do as humans with our mind and with our drive if we actually use it. So please, I encourage you to use it. Till next time, take care of yourself. I'm out.